is how long should somebody give themselves to stay in a state of victimhood? Because so often, especially when you're first starting to build this muscle, right? And you're learning, like, oh, I have to reframe my stories, and the things that are happening for me are good for me. When in the future, it'll help me in the future. When you're first starting to learn this and you're coming out of the victim mentality where you're used to being down in the dumps for weeks, months, sometimes years, wallowing in the victimhood mentality, there's this balancing act of like leaving your old mentality and moving into a new mentality. How long can somebody give themselves? How long should somebody give themselves
Yeah. So
when
I
you're
think,
speaking to your clients and they're coming to the realization of like, oh, Tara, I'm actually getting this. I'm actually like slowly comprehending what you're saying. And I'm still sad. And I'm still mad. And I'm still bitter. And like, you can't expect me just to rebound the very next day.
mhm.
Like, this whole scenario, whatever it is real messed up. So, like, I deserve, or I need time. What is your thought process? What is your opinion? How do you guide or work with your clients through that conversation?
Yeah. And it was interesting because when I first heard you asking this, the first thing that I heard was like, how long should somebody stay there? And the instant thought I had in my head is there's no right or wrong,
Love that.
right? There's no, you should be like this, right? But I also, and I looked down, if you guys know, because I use my little word dictionary, and it's not the regular dictionary. It's called an Entimon like dictionary. It's where root words come from, like the original, not what they say that, but what was the original energy of the word? And I looked up victim, which I've never done, which is interesting because we use this word victim a lot. And I looked it up and I was like, wait, I don't think I actually know. And this is interesting to me. So a victim. So if you want to think, if you're a victim and you want to stay in your victimhood, I just want you to know what you're choosing. Because this is where I think there's not a should, it's not a right or wrong. I think we just have to be aware of what are we choosing. And so this comes from the mid 15th century, and it's a quote: sacrificial animal, living creature killed and offered as a sacrifice to a deity or a supernatural power, or in the performance of a religious rite. So my question would be is how long do you want to be a sacrificial killed animal?
Love that.
You know, because I don't think that choosing. So when I've talked about this quite a bit. When my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm in the middle of this crazy divorce. It was a horrific season. There was so much that happened. It was just wild. I never had the thought, why me? I think a lot of people, when you get into victimhood,
Mhm.
we think, why me?
Absolutely.
Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Now I've had moments where I've said that. So, I have moments of, what did I ever do to deserve this? Right. But I didn't really stick in when my daughter's in cancer and all of this of like, why me? Because it really is, I'm going to say this gently. It's a very narcissistic thought. The thought is, why me? Why not you? Why shouldn't you have a kid who has cancer? Why shouldn't you be the one who gets divorced? Why shouldn't somebody else have to have this trauma? Why should I have to have this? And the reality is that life is sometimes really crappy. Life is sometimes really hard, and bad things happen to really good people. And it's not fair. And you probably didn't do anything to deserve it. You probably did absolutely not, like you probably did nothing to deserve what happened to you. And it just sucks that it did. But there is no power, and there is no purpose, and there is no benefit of sitting in a why me? Why not you? Why not you? Because life hurts people, good people. I didn't deserve to go through what I went through. When you hear most of my story, and I don't talk too much about my ex-husband, I mean, I literally had like a lifetime movie. I married somebody who was a complete fraud, didn't exist. Made up trauma, made up jobs, made up the wedding announcement that I have, a school that didn't exist. I mean, it was literally like finding out I had been living a complete lie for almost a decade. It was horrific. I didn't do anything to deserve that. I was a really young, innocent girl who got married with the best of intentions. But to sit there and say, why me, why me, why me, it doesn't serve you. So what I will tell you, what helped me move out of feeling just like, why, like, what's happening to my life, into a place where it didn't make it better, but I got better. So let me say that my circumstances didn't get better. I got better. And I know people don't like this, but I'll tell you what worked for me. This is what changed my life. Is I started a gratitude journal every night. And I remember sitting in the hospital with my daughter, and she had just been diagnosed with cancer. I was dealing with craziness. They were told, and they did tell me in the hospital that the likelihood was she was probably going to die. This was not like she has cancer and we're going to help her get better. It was like, you better come to terms with the fact that your daughter's probably going to die. I had just signed on to be a spokesperson for a company that had gone through months of negotiation. It was going to help me financially get back on my feet after my divorce. I'm in the hospital 48 hours. I should not laugh. I still laugh because I just can't believe how ridiculous this is. The nephew calls me, of the owner of the company. The owner had, I don't remember if it was a stroke or a heart attack, massively just dropped dead. And he was just calling to let me know that the project was going to be put on hold indefinitely. And I was like, what? And then my insurance dropped me, like all in the span of like 4 days. And the hospital calls me, Sabrina, and they're like, so your insurance has dropped you. Apparently this was a pre-existing condition and we'd like to know how you plan on paying the bill. And I was like, literally, I'm like, I don't know, what's the bill? And they were like, $96,000. And I had been there like 3 days. And I was
What
like,
do you mean a pre-existing? What was
because I had gotten divorced, and in the middle of the divorce, I had to pick up my own insurance. And so we went from like insurance that we had as a family to me just getting insurance for me and my daughter. And so the insurance company said, oh, well, she had cancer for months before it was finally found, to the point where she was dying. So they were like, oh, clearly she's had this cancer from before we switched the insurance. I'm laughing now. It was not funny then. It was horrific.
Wow.
But yeah, so I'm like, I will have to get back to you on that bill. Like literally, it was just, and so I knew, and if you've ever been in this space, do you know where you just feel like everything around you is just falling apart? Like literally, you just feel like one thing right after another, right? We say like be really careful. I never say things come in threes because I don't want to bring threes, right? But we've had that moment where like everything just feels like it's falling apart. And I did know from all the work that I had in personal development and growth mindset that our reticular activator at the base of our brain seeks out what we're looking for, what we're thinking about. And I was like, if I continue, and I'm sorry, I'll get emotional. It was a really hard time. If I continue to keep focusing on all of these things that are falling apart, I'm literally going to be psychologically and subconsciously seeking out more things to prove this to me. And if I want to change this, I have to change my mind first. Like I have to change my thoughts first, because your thoughts impact your actions and your feelings and everything. And I was like, I have to change my thoughts. And so I remember my daughter was literally hooked up to all these machines. She was this little teeny, in a bed. I sat on the end of the bed. She was sleeping. And this was back before Facebook was like Facebook. This was like back in like 2009 or 9, maybe. So do you remember, for those of us who are really old, Facebook, literally, it started with I am, and you wrote in what you were doing. Like, I am eating an apple. Like there were no videos, there were no pictures, there was nothing. But it had a little note section where you could take notes, like a little journal on Facebook. And so I thought, well, I'm going to start journaling on here just to be accountable. I'll be accountable. I'll show up every day and I'm going to do my little, journaling. And I listed 19 things that I was grateful for. In a hospital room, sitting across from my daughter, who they told me she was going to die. And it was literally stuff like, I'm grateful that my mom was here in the hospital with me. I was grateful that my cousin was an oncology nurse who worked in the hospital next door, and she could talk to the doctors about all the stuff I didn't understand what they were telling me. I remember one, right? I was like, I am grateful somebody invented coffee. That is what I am living on at this point in my life. And sometimes I would be grateful for really big things, like a good test, a good that. One time, a friend of mine, she was like, what do you need? We'll bring you whatever you need to the hospital. And I was like, honestly, I need tweezers. Like if you could see my face, I just need tweezers. Can you bring me tweezers? And I was just so grateful she brought me tweezers. And then one was, I also remember this one time I was just like, I'm grateful that a day is only 24 hours because I legit do not have any more in me. I need it. Like I need to go to sleep and be able to start over. I cannot go if I had to go another hour, I don't know if I could. And so a gratitude practice is like yoga. You can't go in and do the same 3 poses. You're not going to grow. And a lot of people, they do a gratitude practice, but what they do is they write down, I'm happy for my health and my house and my mom and my family and my kids. And that's like going in and every day and being like, I'm going to do the same 3 yoga poses. You don't grow. It was like I had to find things that day in the last 24 hours to be grateful for.
Mm.
Like, what happened in the last 24 hours? And I did it every single night. And it literally changed my life. And so it's what helped me move from, if you want to say victimhood, or in just a place of despair, I would say. I don't know that I felt like a place of despair. I moved from a place of despair to a place of like, wow, even in this hellhole pit, there's actually still a lot of beauty. There's still a lot of things to be grateful for. I don't know. I loved how you said, Sabrina, the idea that these things are happening. I think you said I heard you say like for my good or something. I don't know that I was really like, oh, this is all happening for my good because, this is all working for me. I don't think I ever thought that. Like, let's be real. Like when you're going through something really traumatic, like who's thinking, oh, I'm so glad this is happening for my good. I can't wait to see how I'm going to grow. Right. Like we're not like, like that would be pretty evil to yourself. I do think that when you're on the other side, you can say, here's what I learned when I got knocked down. Like if you picture that clown and you get knocked down, what did I learn while I was laying down? How did this make me stronger? What were the quote gifts? And I learned a lot, and there were a lot of gifts that came out of that. Would I ever want anybody to ever have to go through that? No. Whatever happened to you, like, and I don't mean you, but like if you're listening, whatever happened to you, I would never want somebody to have to go through what you had to go through to get what you learned.
Mm.
I don't think that you deserved to have to go through that. I don't think it was fair that you had to go through that. And I hope that you can say, at least if I had to go through this, if I had to do this, at least I can say, well, this is what I got from it.
Mm.
And if there's something small that you can take away from that, then hopefully it gives it some meaning. But I don't think it's about like, oh, I hope horrible things happen to me so I can grow into a strong person. Right? So there's no timeline. There's no timeline. And I will tell you, my daughter's now 19. There are still things that I have to work through or deal with. When you go through something horrible, it changes you. Now, hopefully it changes you in some really good ways. But there's also stuff like, I've had a lot of physical stuff that I've had to deal with because after my body had been like this for so long, it like crashed, and I'm still trying to work on like getting like my cortisol level balanced and all those things. And it's been years. So I hate the idea that there's pressure to move through something at a time that fits other people's timelines, or that there's something wrong with you if it's taking longer for you to process. I do think it's a choice of how long do you want to sit? How long do you want to lay down? Like, again, I like the clown. How long do you want to lay down? How long do you want to lay down for? And if you're like, hey, I want to lay here for a year. Okay. Like who should judge you for wanting to lay there, right? If that's what you want to do. I think the problem is when you're like, I don't want to lay here anymore, but I don't know how to get back up. Right? That's where it's like, okay, I'm laying here. I know this isn't serving me. I know this isn't helping me. I've been wallowing for a while. I need to get back up, but I just keep laying here. That's, I think, where there's a bigger issue. And that's where having like people like Sabrina in your life, people who are going to be like, let me give you some tools. Let me teach you how to get back up. That's where I also think it's helpful to hear other people's stories. How did they get back up? For me, truly, truly gratitude changed my life. That was part of getting back up. And it was a lot of like mentally choosing what I was going to think about. I would, every time I would get like nervous, I would get afraid. I think my daughter's going to die. They keep telling me she's going to die. I would picture, they told me that the kids who made it to the end of treatment, which wasn't a lot, but the kids who actually got through the end of the treatment, 7 out of 10 of them would survive. Okay. So 7 out of 10 would survive if she could get to the end of treatment. And I remember I used to lay there and my thoughts would be like, so like, Satan's trying to attack your head, get into your brain, like make you afraid. And I would think to myself, why not me? Why not me? If 7 out of 10 kids are going to survive, why not mine? I mean, somebody is going to be number 7. And I would picture 7 little kids lined up in my head and my daughter being number 7. And I would think there's going to be 7 kids who are going to live. If 7 kids are going to live, why not mine? And I think that's a great question. Like, we want to say, why me? But why not you? If someone's going to write the next bestseller, why not you? If somebody's going to start the next biggest podcast, why not you? If somebody's going to build a business that's going to change the world, why not you? Like, somebody's going to do it, right? Like, think about it. Nobody ever ran a 10-minute mile until somebody did. And now everybody does, right? But somebody's going to, so why not you? If like you have this dream in your heart, it was put there for a reason. So why not you? Why not you be the one who changes things? Why not you be the one who changes your family's, wealth? Why not you be the one who changes the mindset of your children? Why not you be the one who impacts your community? So I think that was the mindset I took more, not why me, but why not me? Why somebody's going to live, somebody's kid's going to live. Why not my kid? Right. And I would just think that over and over and over and over in my head. And there's a lot of different tools that I used, but those were 2 that probably served me the best.